Good morning, I hope you're all well. We are back in the garage again, temporarily catching up on a few jobs inside the garage. I've been trying to catalogue and put a list of all the jobs that I need to do on the bikes with these clipboards just to keep myself organised. I try to make mental notes when I'm riding the bikes, or if anything, I also do a verbal note to myself on the camera so that when I'm editing the video later, I suddenly remember that I need to do a job on the bike. And then I'll capture that on this list. It's very simple. So for each bike, I have my clipboard, and I also use a note system on the laptop as well. But for example, need to clean this bike after the riding. It's got a floppy clutch lever that I'd like to fix with some kind of a bushing. The rear brake is a bit grabby, so need to work on that. I'd like to re-sleeve the master cylinder. I've got a new rotor to fit, isolastics, front fork oil, swap the switches around possibly. I prefer the turn signal, the indicator on the left hand side. So that's just one example. I've also got a few projects to work on the Triumph, and well, don't even get me started on poor old Shep under that blanket over there. One of these days, it's actually going to turn into probably a retirement project. The Triumph Thruxton doesn't need a thing, so that's pretty much a blank piece of paper. The Bonneville's going to be one of the first bikes that I work on in the garage, and just to give you some idea of what I need to do, I'm going to remove the main stand. It's actually bent, so one of the legs is further forward than the other one, to the extent that when you're taking the bike off the stand, when you sat on it, for a short guy like me, it's a little precarious because it sort of gives you a little kick to one side. So I'm going to take the main stand off and see if we can straighten it, and if not, I'll just buy another one. Then I want to work on the oil seals. I know that was a problem, and I know I should have probably done it when I took the whole front end apart. I just thought it might be okay, but no, it's leaking, and so I will replace the seals. I have to take the front end apart anyway because the handlebars are not straight, and that's one of the next jobs. And then there's an oil leak under the bike. I'm not quite sure where it's coming from. I'd just like to tighten that up. I'd like to adjust the front brake, and then also the levers, the clutch and the brake levers, they're set too far down. I'd like to move them back up a bit. They're a bit of a stretch to reach. Big thanks to my friend Geoff again for helping straighten this main stand. He put the blowtorch on it and we stuck it in the vise and we bent it back into shape, and so hopefully this will fit just fine. The next job is to look at the clutch. I'm going to try and lighten the clutch, and you may have seen that that's quite a firm grip to pull that clutch lever in, and so I've got these light clutch springs that I'm going to fit into the clutch and see if that makes a difference. I'm going to start by getting the rear brake pedal and the foot pedal out of the way so that I can undo the primary cover and remove that and get to the clutch. I'll just let that oil drain out first of all. And I've got the primary cover off. I think this is the first time I've looked in here. It was very simple, everything looks reasonably clean, although I'll give it a wipe. And then just a matter of taking the old springs out and putting the new springs in. And I've got this tool here. It's like got a T-handle, which I find is very helpful. And the idea is that you just put it in the slots there and turn. And there's a little dimple in there that the spring locates against, so it's a little tricky. You kind of got to push down and twist at the same time. There's also these ones available as well. They're a bit smaller. They don't work very well by hand, so you generally have to put a spanner, a socket over them to get a little bit more leverage. But these ones are definitely a lot better. Well, those are a couple more jobs that are completed here on the Triumph. Everything's back together again. I just give it a little bit of a wipe. The cover's back on. Those lighter springs, they were actually a little tricky to get back into the cups, and specifically it's because they're longer than the original springs. They're lighter definitely, but they're longer, so you can compress them more easily, but you have to push them on with a screwdriver before you can get the thread catching. And then obviously once the thread comes to the end of the spring, you use that special tool to just finish them off. But no, very happy with that. And then the action, definitely a bit lighter, not a lot lighter, but a bit lighter. But part of that might also be the cable, and that's my next job. I've got a brand new cable that I'm going to fit next. So that's the clutch. And then the main stand, very happy with the action there. And I'll let you know how things go when the bike is on the road, and hopefully we'll come back and come off the stand a bit more easily. While I'm working on this bike, I often think of Lunmad, who is no longer with us, sadly, but with affection. I really enjoyed watching his videos and his approach to fixing his Bonneville in his shed as well. I really enjoyed that. And I look on him and his videos from time to time just to see if I can get some more hints and tips on working on this bike. But I miss him. Cheers and rest in peace. I'm going to start by removing the lever first of all, and uh-oh, got another floppy lever here. I'm going to take the tank off next, not just for the cable routing, but because I need to do a couple of jobs with the tank. These embellishment strips, they need tightening down because it's catching on the fork head nut here. And then also, you may remember from a previous ride, it was vibrating quite a bit, so it needs some more packing underneath. Okay, that's the new cable fitted, and I'll obviously adjust it once I'm riding it, but definitely feels a lot smoother and a lot lighter than it was.